It was an ordinary Tuesday afternoon when the skies above Earth changed forever. The first sign came as a slight flicker in the clouds, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Then, in an instant, the sky itself seemed to tear open. In New York, London, Beijing, Mumbai, and every major city across the globe, massive holographic projections appeared, floating hundreds of feet above the ground. Traffic stopped. Phones came out. Social media exploded. Within minutes, the entire world was watching. The hologram showed a massive chamber, clearly alien in design. Towering crystalline pillars stretched upward into darkness, and in the center stood a being unlike anything humanity had ever seen. It was tall and slender, with skin that seemed to shimmer like mother of pearl. When it spoke, its voice resonated in every human language simultaneously. "I am the ancient High Speaker of the Galactic Council," the being announced. "Your civilization has reached the threshold of our attention. As per the laws of order established 50,000 years ago, you are now required to pay tribute." In the Pentagon's Emergency Command Center, General Thompson watched the broadcast with growing concern. Around him, dozens of military personnel scrambled to analyze the transmission. Radar systems worldwide reported massive objects appearing in high orbit, ships larger than aircraft carriers, materializing out of nowhere. The ancient continued its speech. "The tribute requirement is simple and non-negotiable. 30% of your world's resources and workforce will be allocated to council projects annually. This includes, but is not limited to, minerals, biological materials, manufactured goods, and human labor." On the streets, people reacted with everything from panic to anger. Some ran for shelter, while others stood transfixed. In Times Square, a crowd gathered beneath the massive hologram, their faces illuminated by its otherworldly glow. "This is not a request." The ancient's voice grew colder. "This is the natural order of the galaxy. All civilizations pay tribute to the Council. All civilizations serve the greater good as we define it. You have 72 Earth hours to submit your formal acceptance." In the United Nations Security Council chamber, hastily assembled world leaders watched with grim faces. The Russian president gripped his armrest until his knuckles turned white. The Chinese premier sat perfectly still, her expression unreadable. The American president leaned forward, studying every detail of the alien being. The ancient raised its hand, and behind it, hundreds of alien ships became visible in the hologram. "Should you resist, these vessels will ensure compliance. We have done this 10,000 times before. Civilizations that resist are made to understand their place. Civilizations that comply prosper under our guidance." The transmission continued with technical specifications for Earth's response. Banking systems worldwide began reporting strange intrusions. The aliens were already mapping Earth's resources, calculating exactly what they would take. In orbit, astronauts aboard the International Space Station watched in awe as the alien fleet dwarfed their view of Earth. The ships were massive, geometric shapes that seemed to bend light around them, making them appear both solid and ghostly at the same time. "Remember," the ancient concluded, 72 hours. "We await your acceptance of these terms." The hologram flickered once, then vanished, leaving behind a stunned planet and a single communication frequency for Earth's response. In the hours that followed, chaos erupted in financial markets. Military bases worldwide went to high alert. Religious leaders called for prayer, scientists called for study, and politicians called for unity. But in secure facilities around the globe, a select few had already noticed something odd about the transmission, something that didn't quite add up. As night fell across a changed Earth, Admiral James sat in his office at Naval Intelligence, rewatching the transmission for the 20th time. There was something in the way those ships moved, something about their technology that tickled the back of his mind. He made another note, drank another coffee, and kept watching. Humanity had 72 hours to respond, and he intended to use every minute of it. The clock was ticking. The United Earth Council chamber had never been so full. Built 5 years ago during the colony wars, the underground facility near Geneva was designed to withstand nuclear strikes. Now it held every major world leader, their top military advisors, and key scientific experts. The room buzzed with dozens of languages as everyone spoke at once. Silence. The council president's voice cut through the noise. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes who hadn't slept in 30 hours. We have 48 hours left. Let's hear from our military analysis team. General Thompson stepped up to the podium. Behind him, massive screens showed detailed scans of the alien vessels. The Galactic Council's fleet includes approximately 300 capital ships in Earth orbit. Each one is roughly the size of Manhattan. He paused as worried whispers filled the room. Our most powerful weapons would be like throwing rocks at a tank. The Chinese premier stood up. Then we must accept their demands. 30% is better than total destruction. 30% this year, the Indian president countered. What about next year? And the year after? We'll be slaves forever. The argument that followed was heated but pointless. Everyone knew Earth couldn't fight back, but no one wanted to surrender. The debate went in circles until a new voice spoke up from the back of the room. I need 48 hours. Admiral James walked forward, carrying a thick folder. He looked like he hadn't slept either, but his eyes were sharp. Something's wrong with their story, and I think I know what it is. The room fell silent. James was a legend from the colony wars, known for seeing patterns others missed. He spread his documents on the main table, printouts of the alien transmission, technical readings, and old research papers about Earth's experimental space programs. Look at their ships, he pointed to a particular scan. They're advanced, yes, but they're all identical. Every single one. He pulled out another document. And their message. They'd done this 10,000 times before. Always the same demand, always the same percentage. What are you suggesting? Asked the Russian president. I'm suggesting they're stuck. James tapped the folder. Think about it. They have faster than light travel, but they all use exactly the same method. Their ships are identical because they haven't made any real changes in thousands of years. They've gotten powerful by taking resources from others, not by innovation. The room was silent as people considered his words. The council president leaned forward. How does this help us? Because, James smiled slightly, we might have something they've never seen before. He pulled out one final document. Plans for Earth's experimental quantum displacement drive. They think they know exactly what we're capable of. I think we can prove them wrong, but I need time to be sure. The council president looked around the room. Every face showed the same mixture of fear and hope. They had seen James pull off the impossible before, during the darkest days of the colony wars. If anyone could find a weakness in the seemingly invincible Galactic Council, it would be him. You have 24 hours, the president decided. Not 48. We'll need the rest of the time to prepare our response, whatever it may be. James nodded and gathered his papers. As he headed for the door, he paused. One more thing. We need to contact our quantum research team on Mars base. And no one, I mean no one, transmits anything that the council might intercept. From now on, we go dark. As the admiral left, the room erupted in fresh discussion. But now there was something new in the air. It wasn't quite hope. Not yet. But it was the beginning of a plan. And sometimes that's all humanity needs to change the impossible into the possible. The clock continued ticking, but for the first time since the aliens appeared, Earth had more than just fear. It had a chance. Mars Base 1 was humanity's greatest scientific achievement. Hidden beneath the red planet's surface, its quantum research lab had been a secret even from most of Earth's population. Now, Admiral James stood in its central chamber, staring at the experimental quantum displacement drive through thick safety glass. Run it again, he ordered. Behind him, Dr. Wilson typed commands into the control panel. The drive hummed to life, its core shifting between visible and invisible states as it bent the fabric of space itself. "That's the 10th test," Dr. Wilson said, pushing her glasses up. "The results are always the same. Our quantum drive doesn't just move through space. It exists in multiple locations simultaneously until observed. It's completely different from the Council's technology." James watched the readings on the screen. The aliens used what they called fold space technology, pushing through space like a boat through water. But Earth's quantum drive took a different approach entirely. It didn't push through space. It simply changed the probability of where it existed. "Show me the Council ship scans again," James requested. The main screen filled with detailed images of the alien vessels. After 20 hours of non-stop analysis, his team had spotted something remarkable. "Look here," Dr. Wilson pointed to the alien ship's defensive systems. "They have incredible shields against conventional weapons and fold space attacks. But they have absolutely no protection against quantum-based technology. Why defend against something that, in their experience, doesn't exist?" In another part of the facility, engineers were already modifying Earth's small fleet of experimental ships. They had only 15 vessels equipped with quantum drives, each one barely the size of a destroyer. Against the Council's massive fleet, they looked like toy boats next to aircraft carriers. "The Council has become a victim of their own success," James explained to his team. "They've enforced the same technology across the galaxy for so long, they've forgotten how to handle anything different. Their ships are built to fight exact copies of themselves." A young technician raised his hand. "But sir, even with this advantage, we only have 15 ships. They have hundreds." James smiled. "When you can exist in multiple places at once, numbers mean less than you think." He turned to Dr. Wilson. "Show them the battle simulation." The main screen came to life, showing a computerized mock battle. A single Earth ship faced off against 10 Council vessels. As the Council ships attacked, the Earth vessel seemed to blur, existing in multiple places simultaneously. The Council's weapons hit empty space while the Earth ship appeared to be everywhere at once. "Their targeting systems can't lock onto something that exists in quantum flux," Dr. Wilson explained. "And their shields are useless against weapons fired from quantum space. It's like trying to block a punch from someone who can reach through walls." James checked his watch. They had only 3 hours left before they needed to head back to Earth. "Start manufacturing quantum torpedoes," he ordered, "and get me a secure line to the Council President. I think it's time humanity gave the galaxy's oldest civilization a lesson in thinking differently." As his team rushed to work, James looked again at the quantum drive. Humanity had developed it not out of a desire for power, but from simple curiosity about how the universe worked. The Council, for all its might, had stopped asking questions thousands of years ago. "Send a message to all our ships," he told his communications officer. "Tell them to prepare for Operation Schrodinger's Cat." The officer looked confused. "What does that mean, sir?" James watched as the quantum drive shifted in and out of reality, a physical reminder that the universe was stranger and more wonderful than anyone, even ancient alien civilizations, could fully understand. "It means," he said, "that we're about to show the galaxy that a cat can be both alive and dead at the same time. And so can our ships." The United Earth Council chamber was silent as Admiral James finished his presentation. The quantum drive demonstration, transmitted securely from Mars, had left the world leaders speechless. For the first time in 3 days, hope filled the underground room. "You're certain this will work?" the Council President asked, breaking the silence. James nodded. "The Council's ships are powerful, but they're predictable. They haven't faced a truly new technology in thousands of years. Our quantum ships can hit them, but they can't hit us." The Brazilian president stood up. "Then we should strike first, while they don't expect it." "No," James said firmly. "We're not going to start a war. We're going to show them something they haven't seen in 50,000 years, someone saying no to their demands." The room erupted in discussion. The deadline was just 1 hour away. After several minutes of debate, the Council President raised his hand for silence. "We'll take a vote," he announced. "All in favor of Admiral James's plan." One by one, hands went up. Some quickly, some slowly, but in the end, every hand in the room was raised. Earth had made its decision. "Prepare the transmission," the president ordered, "and get our ships in position." High above Earth, aboard the Council's massive command ship, the Ancient waited. The massive alien being had overseen thousands of tribute collections, and none had ever gone differently. As the deadline approached, it didn't even consider the possibility of refusal. The transmission from Earth came exactly 1 minute before the deadline. The Ancient's pearl-like skin shimmed as it opened the communication channel, expecting to see frightened humans submitting to the inevitable. Instead, a single word appeared on its screen: "No." For several seconds, the Ancient stared at the message, not comprehending. Then, before it could respond, something impossible happened. A small Earth ship appeared out of nowhere, directly beside the command ship. But it wasn't just in one place. Sensor readings showed it existing in multiple locations, simultaneously, flickering in and out of reality like a ghost. The Earth ship fired no weapons. It simply demonstrated its quantum drive, letting the Council's sensors record its impossible movement through space. Then it transmitted a longer message. "Humanity declines your offer of tribute. We have developed technologies you have never seen. We have learned things about the universe that you have forgotten to even question. We are willing to share our knowledge, to trade as equals, but we will not be slaves. You have 1 hour to withdraw your fleet. After that, we will demonstrate exactly what our quantum displacement technology can do when used as a weapon. The choice is yours." In the Council command ship, alarms began blaring. Sensor operators reported more Earth ships appearing and disappearing across the fleet, each one existing in multiple places at once, completely immune to their targeting systems. The Ancient's skin changed color, showing its anger. In 50,000 years, no species had ever dared to make demands of the Council. It opened a channel to its entire fleet, ready to order an attack that would teach humanity its place. But before it could speak, something caught its eye. On a secondary screen, preliminary analysis of Earth's quantum drive was coming in. The mathematics behind it were elegant, beautiful, and completely new. For the first time in millennia, the Ancient felt something it had almost forgotten: curiosity. In the Council chamber on Earth, humanity waited. They had done something unprecedented in galactic history. They had said no to gods, and backed it up with science that proved those gods weren't all-knowing after all. Now they just had to wait and see how gods handled being told no. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council erupted into chaos. Representatives from 1,000 worlds shouted and argued as news of humanity's defiance spread. In 50,000 years of Council history, no species had ever refused tribute. More shocking still, none had ever demonstrated technology the Council didn't understand. The Ancient stood at the center of the storm, its pearl-like skin now dark with rage. "Order," it commanded, voice booming through the massive chamber. "I demand order." But for the first time ever, the Council members didn't immediately obey. On the main display, recordings of Earth's quantum ships played on repeat. The vessels flickered in and out of existence, breaking every rule of physics the Council understood. How dare they? The Ancient rage. "Launch the fleet. We will crush this insignificant world and make an example of them." "Wait." A Council member stood up. It was Representative First, from one of the oldest tribute-paying worlds. "Look at their technology. Think about what we could learn from them." "Learn?" The Ancient's voice dripped with scorn. "We have nothing to learn from primitives." "That's exactly the problem." Another Council member spoke up. "When was the last time we actually developed new technology? We take tribute, we grow larger, but we never grow wiser." The argument spread through the chamber. Younger Council members, whose worlds had more recently joined the Council, sided with First. Older members, set in their ways, backed the Ancient. The perfect unity of the Council, maintained for 50,000 years, began to crack. In a secure chamber off the main hall, the Council's top scientists studied the readings from Earth's quantum ships. They couldn't explain how the technology worked. More worrying still, they couldn't figure out how to defend against it. "The humans are right," one scientist admitted. "We stopped asking questions long ago. We grew comfortable with our power, never imagining someone might think differently." Back in the main chamber, the Ancient made a final demand for obedience. "I have led this council since its founding. I will not be questioned by descendants of tribute worlds." "Then perhaps that's the problem," First responded, standing tall. "You've led so long you've forgotten how to follow, how to learn, how to grow." On the screens around the chamber, Earth's message played again. "We are willing to share our knowledge, to trade as equals, but we will not be slaves." More council members began to stand. The rebellion spread like wildfire through the chamber. Species that had paid tribute for thousands of years began to question why. The council's perfect system, maintained through fear and tradition, started to unravel. "If you will not obey," the Ancient threatened, "then you are all traitors. The fleet will deal with Earth, and then with any who support them." But when the Ancient tried to send the attack order, nothing happened. On the main screen, a new message appeared. The quantum ships had transmitted a computer virus unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Their communications were locked. "We didn't just develop new engines," the message read. "We've learned things about computers, about mathematics, about the very nature of reality that you never imagined. Your ships are now locked in place. You have 1 hour to begin negotiations for a new galactic order. One based on cooperation, not tribute." The Ancient's skin turned almost black with fury. But looking around the chamber, it saw something that frightened it more than Earth's technology. Hope in the eyes of the council members. Hope for change. Hope for something new. The revolution that would reshape the galaxy had begun, sparked by a single human word. The Ancient had not survived 50,000 years by being predictable. While the council argued, it had secretly transmitted emergency override codes to a portion of the fleet, codes so old that even humanity's virus couldn't block them. Now 100 massive council ships broke formation and moved toward Earth. "So be it," the Ancient announced to the horrified council chamber. "If the old order must end, let it end in fire." Admiral James watched from the bridge of Earth's lead ship as the council vessels approached. Their massive forms blotted out the stars, each one large enough to cast a shadow on the moon. "They're powering up weapons," his tactical officer reported. "Standard fold space drives are active. No signs they've adapted to quantum technology." James nodded. "Send the signal. Begin Operation Schrodinger's Cat." Earth's 15 quantum ships sprang into action. To the Council's sensors, it must have looked like madness. 15 tiny ships charging toward 100 massive warships. But then reality itself seemed to blur. The quantum drives engaged at full power. Each Earth ship existed in multiple states simultaneously, appearing and disappearing faster than the Council's targeting computers could process. Where there had been 15 ships, now there appeared to be hundreds, then thousands, each one both real and unreal until observed. The Council fleet opened fire. Massive energy beams cut through space, but they hit nothing. How could they hit ships that existed everywhere and nowhere at once? The Council's weapons, designed to fight normal ships in normal space, were useless against vessels that danced between realities. "Launch quantum torpedoes," James ordered. "Defensive systems only. Disable, don't destroy." The torpedoes phased in and out of quantum states as they flew, passing straight through the Council's shields as if they didn't exist. They struck with surgical precision, knocking out weapon systems and engines without causing catastrophic damage. On the Council's command ship, the Ancient watched in disbelief as its fleet was systematically disabled by an enemy it couldn't even properly detect. Shots that seemed guaranteed to hit passed through empty space, while Earth's ships appeared impossible places, striking from angles that shouldn't exist. "Impossible," the Ancient whispered. This defies all laws of war. No, James's voice came through on all frequencies. It defies your laws, the ones you stopped questioning millennia ago. The universe is stranger and more wonderful than you remember. The battle, if it could even be called that, lasted less than 10 minutes. When it was over, all 100 council ships hung powerless in space, their weapons and engines disabled by quantum torpedoes that had ignored their most powerful shields. The ancients stared at the battle display, trying to understand how 15 ships had defeated 100. The mathematics of quantum displacement flashed across its screen again, and for the first time in thousands of years, it felt something new doubt. In the council chamber, the representatives watched in stunned silence. They had never seen the council fleet defeated, never imagined it was possible. First stood up, addressing the chamber. For 50,000 years, we've believed power came from taking, First announced. These humans show us that real power comes from thinking, from questioning, from imagining new possibilities. James's voice transmitted through the chamber. Your ships are disabled, not destroyed. Your crews are unharmed. Now shall we discuss the future? Not as masters and slaves, but as equals who can learn from each other. The chamber erupted in approval. The ancient sat silent, watching as its perfect, unchanging order crumbled in the face of humanity's impossible victory. The galaxy was about to change, and there was nothing it could do to stop it. Sometimes the most powerful weapon isn't a gun or a ship. Sometimes it's simply the ability to imagine a different way. 1 month after the battle, the great council chamber looked very different. The ancient's towering throne had been removed. In its place stood a circular table, with seats of equal height for all representatives. Today, for the first time, a human sat at that table. Admiral James looked around at the assembled representatives of 1,000 worlds. Some were tall, some small, some barely visible to human eyes. All were now equals under the new Galactic Charter. The tribute system is officially ended, First announced, standing at the table. In its place, we establish the Galactic Exchange of Knowledge and Technology. All species will share their discoveries, their questions, and their dreams. A murmur of approval swept through the chamber. Already, the effects of humanity's revolution were spreading. Worlds that had hidden their research for fear of council repression were sharing new technologies. Species that had been enemies under the tribute system were now working together. The ancient sat in a simple chair in the corner, watching. Its pearl-like skin had turned a dull gray. You don't understand what you've done, it said. The order we maintained kept the galaxy stable for 50,000 years. Stable doesn't mean right, James responded. And unchanging doesn't mean perfect. He stood up, addressing the chamber. We've already seen incredible developments in just 1 month. The quantum drive has been combined with fold space technology by a research team from 3 different worlds. They've created something better than either one alone. On the main screen, images showed joint research projects sprouting up across the galaxy. Humanity's quantum physics, combined with the Council's ancient knowledge, was opening doors no one had imagined possible. But more important than the technology, James continued, is the change in how we think. Every species here has something unique to offer, different perspectives, different questions, different ways of seeing the universe. First nodded. We forgot that progress comes from diversity, not uniformity, from questions, not obedience. The chamber's mood was celebratory, but James raised his hand for attention. However, we face new challenges. Without the tribute system, some worlds will struggle economically. We need to establish fair trade, educational exchanges, and development programs. The next few hours were spent discussing practical matters. Representatives who had once competed for the Council's favor now worked together, solving problems that affected all species. The galaxy was changing from a pyramid with the Council at the top to a web of interconnected equals. In orbit above Earth, the disabled Council ships were being studied and repaired. Their crews, initially hostile, had begun to learn from the humans working alongside them. Many had already requested to join the new exchange program. As the session ended, the Ancient approached James. Its color had changed slightly, showing hints of its former pearl-like sheen. "I still don't fully understand how your quantum drive works," it admitted. "That's the point," James smiled. "There's always more to learn. The universe is full of mysteries, and we'll solve them better together than alone." The Ancient was quiet for a moment. 50,000 years, it finally said. "I thought I had seen everything. But your people taught me I was wrong. Perhaps that's not such a terrible thing." As James left the chamber, he looked out at the stars through a massive window. Somewhere out there, humanity's 15 quantum ships were teaching their technology to crews from other worlds. The tribute fleet was becoming an exploration fleet. The galaxy was awakening from a 50,000-year slumber. And it all started with one word: no. Sometimes the greatest revolutions don't come from fighting the old system, but from imagining a completely new one. Humanity hadn't just won their freedom. They had freed an entire galaxy from the chains of unchanging tradition. The next 50,000 years would be very different from the last.